Hi, this is John Messina, Athletic Director, St. Lucie West Centennial High School, and welcome to another edition of Hey Coach. We're bringing back our repeated guest, Greg Wyatt, owner, along with his wife, of WSTU, WPSL. Greg, thank you so much for coming again on our show.
You bet.
Okay, Greg has done a great job with high school sports. First thing I want to thank you, we had the Red Carpet Awards ceremony May 25th at the Sunrise Theater, sponsored by TC Palm and the Treasure Coast Sports Commission, and along with our TV station here, we broadcasted it live. And what a great show, Greg! Some of your feelings on that show.
Oh, I'll tell you. You know, I started thinking back on some of our early ESPYs at ESPN, and just thinking what this will become eventually. You know, for a first-time event, unbelievable. Right. I mean, I just really thought that was real proud of the Sports Commission and all of you guys in the school district who managed to pull all this together. And I mean, you know, I keep going back to that baseball tournament, state baseball tournament that you guys all pulled together too. And it hasn't been the same since. And I keep hearing that. So hopefully we'll be able to get that back too. But I hope that that's going to become an annual event.
I think it will.
Yeah.
They did such a great job. And for a first time, they got the right person speaking. Jason Taylor really related to not just the adults in the audience, but he really related to the kids. And his great point was, you know, he's talking to the young people out there and he says, how many people saw me play?
Oh, sure.
And nobody.
Very few.
Very few.
Oh, yeah.
But this is a future Hall of Famer. And he said one thing that really, well, two things. The first thing he said, I never did drugs. And look at me right now. And I was very proud that he said that. And the second thing he said to the kids, play as many sports as you can.
Yes.
I really think we get so self-centered and so specific sports now that everybody's just playing one sport. And he told the story about how he got a scholarship to Akron, and it was on a basketball scholarship.
Sure.
And then, you know, he wanted to play football too. And all of a sudden the football coach wouldn't let him play basketball. And then he said, well, guess who won out? Because 2 years later, I'm still here playing both, and the football coach is fired. But he really, really related to the young people there, you know?
Sure.
You know? But the first topic I want to talk about today is the increase in maybe sports saturation. And I'm going to give you a great example. This year on July 25th, they're going to start the PGA golf tournament. And it's in my hometown of Springfield, New Jersey, and it's being played at Baltusrol. And
I know Baltusrol very well. And I covered Nicholas there. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Remember it well.
We go back because I worked the tournament in '68. Nobody's here to know, but you know, I cut my senior exams to work the tournament. I made them up, though. But I'll never forget, I was on the practice range getting things set up for some of the golfers, and all of a sudden somebody tapped me on the shoulder. Now remember, we didn't have ESPN or any of these sports. I mean, sports was 3 minutes a night.
Sure.
And no sports show. And I remember, this is 1968, and Arnold Palmer tapped me on the back, and I turned around, and I couldn't get anything out of my mouth to say. And he kept saying, and your name is? And it was just, you know, and now we take for granted, because we see these guys every single day, how things have changed over the years, right? And look at high school sports, Greg.
Sure.
I mean, if, you know, I played in a high school state championship. If we had 50 people there, now it's televised, some nationally. And,
sure.
You know, do you think we're going a little bit too far with the promotion and the saturation of high school sports?
No, as far as I'm concerned, you can't have enough high school sports.
Okay.
Because, like on the radio side of it, we're cutting back.
Well, I don't mean
you know, as far as
specifically.
You know,
I mean nationally.
I'm just saying in the state of Florida, if you want to call us the dinosaurs, we are. because we not only do high school football, but basketball and baseball.
Right.
So, and we do soccer if we had somebody that knew the sport. So, it's one of those things that I don't think you can do enough high school. I just think that where you're seeing a lot of the saturation comes in a lot of the foreign leagues that are coming in here. We're talking about some of the European soccer, stuff like that. That's every big network is going to be carrying stuff like that. And I think what you're going to see is the high school stuff is going to be relegated to like the ESPN 3s, which are actually the laptop version of ESPN, which is okay. It's still going to be okay. That's where you have the second tier colleges right now. A friend of mine is at Northern Illinois. ESPN supplied all the equipment to his university for it, and all they do is crew it. And it goes right straight back to Bristol, and they put it on the computers. That's going to be the future anyway. It's not going to be television. It's going to be a different television, because now ESPN, especially losing 13 million homes, they have to concentrate on the cord cutters, which are maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, or cord nevers, which is the current college grads, coming out into the job market that may not be able to afford cable. So that's going to be the audience that all of these networks are steering around and getting. CBS being the leader with CBS All Access, they have 800,000 subscribers. Costs you $6 a month, but you get CBS programming 24 hours a day. So I think everybody's kind of looking at CBS going, ooh, wow.
Do you think each network will have their own channel?
Everybody at NBC.
Yeah, everybody but NBC.
Because they're owned by a cable company. They're not going to let them do that.
Wow.
But, I see, actually, I was talking to someone at ABC who said that they're going to try some experimentation with ESPN just for the cable cutters. But the problem is that they've got so many cemented agreements with the actual cable companies. There's going to be a legal problem there that ESPN's going to have to jump the hurdles on that. But they will.
Well, what I meant is, do you think that each sport, each sport team will have their own network? For example, you have the SEC network, okay, for all the...
You betcha.
But then Texas has their own channel. Do you think down the road that's the way everybody's going to go? Everybody's going to have their own channel?
Well, Notre Dame does too. It's called NBC. No, seriously.
You're right on that.
NASCAR already does.
Okay.
So you figure NASCAR is in the lead there.
Okay.
MLB is working on individual clubs' websites. Right. So they're going to be kind of the coordinating network for the Dodgers and the Marlins and people like that. So, yeah, you're right. It's all going to be moving to something that's very fluid. Within 5 years, you're not going to know television. Television's going to be really, really different, just simply because of that. Cable is still going to be cable, but it's going to be just like FPL. It'll just be a utility to get internet from point A to point B.
Now, when you say cable, are you including the satellite networks too? Like Dish and DirecTV?
They're not going to be around.
They won't be
They're
around.
gone. I mean, why? I mean, somebody spits on the sidewalk, you lose a signal. I mean, and they've also got some legal issues too when it comes to sports rights. But no, I don't think satellite is the way to go. Actually, we've been doing some experimentation with CBS Radio where they have, even using the satellites, been sending their newscasts via a stream. And if you notice some of the coverage from Orlando, it looked a little different than normal network coverage. That's because it was different because there were streams. So that's, it's the future of all of television, eventually to get away from satellites.
Now, I'm the type of person, I like the big screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so now everything that I see on the computer is going to be able to be on your big screen TV now.
Well, yeah, it'll look terrible.
Why would it look terrible?
Well, until we get a better delivery service, which is broadband.
Right.
Until we get better broadband in every home,
Right.
it's going to be questionable. And say, looking at the technical operation here in this, television station, which is state of the art, you have to understand that state of the art satellite truck out in the parking lot is going to have to be able to hook up to state of the art internet for it to be able to handle all of this too. So it's going to be an adjustment period over the next 5, maybe 10 years.
Now, the networks are pushing the 4K TV, all right?
It's already gone.
You think it's gone already?
6K.
Now it's up
It's
to
already
6K.
6K in Europe.
I can't keep up.
No, it's absurd. Actually, they are. And if you watch ESPN a lot, a lot of the replays, and Fox is doing it too, are 4K. And that's why the replays are just crystal clear.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why.
I was very happy because I got a 4K set. The kids got it.
There you
for
go.
my birthday last year. And now they say they're going to do the Olympics in 4K.
Yes.
Which NBC is going to venture into that.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more expensive.
Well, it is. It's a little more expensive because we really don't have a lot of the camera equipment, stuff like that in the United States yet. But they've got it in Europe, and I'm sure. I shouldn't say this. NBC, I'm sure, is taking a world feed, which the old NBC, or when I was working the Olympics at ABC, we would never do. Everything was originated from us, and then we kicked it over to the rest of the world. This is a shared feed. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to be getting is not really NBC video, but from somewhere else.
Well, now, to put it down to our level in high school, FHSAA does the streaming feed all the time of all the state championships. I don't know if that's defeating the purpose. I had a few conversations with them. For example, 2 years ago, one of our wrestlers was in the state final. I had gone up with some of the coaches the day before.
Sure.
He won the semifinal and came back. Now, it was pouring rain. It was up in Lakeland. We're down here in Port St. Lucie. The next day we said to ourselves, wait a minute. Instead of driving up for a 2-minute match, and we supported the young man, who was a wonderful young man. We watched it on the streaming video. He lost. It was a great match. He lost, but 6 minutes. So we're going to drive, Does that defeat the purpose? I know with some of the bigger sports now, with football, basketball, and baseball, and softball also, they're doing the state finals with the live stream. Is that going to keep people away?
No, it's... I can turn the clock back, having worked on the Dodger 100-year show at Fox, and talking with, I remember Red Barber talking about 1938 and saying that, when Cincinnati started the first radio broadcast, oh my God, the owners, it's going to kill attendance and everything else. No. All you have to do is look at, and of course I was there for all of this, the Dodger moved to LA in '58. I was 12 years old. And, I think back at, I grew up with Vin Scully in my teen years, who's still going. This is his final year. As is Dick Enberg, who is also retiring. Two of my mentors, I was so blessed. Chick Hearn being Chick Hearn being the other for the Lakers. But I look at that, and you realize I was one of those kids in the LA Coliseum with a transistor radio, listening to Vinny and Jerry in my ear and cheering the Dodgers on in the stands.
Now I got a question for you. How many people that we're talking to know what the transistor radio is?
That's your telephone now.
That's your telephone.
That's your telephone now.
You're absolutely
Every
right.
radio station, if they don't have an app, is usually with local programming, like we are.
That's a great point.
On Ustream. So your telephone is your
radio.
Transistor radio.
A lot smaller.
Sure.
A lot more clearer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a little different delivery.
Now, students out there want to get into broadcasting.
Yes.
Because I do have a bunch that ask me, because I'm fortunate enough to work for you. Be working a little more this year coming up. What should they do getting into broadcasting?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great field.
Yes.
It's a different field now than it was when Carol and I started in television.
Explain why it has changed.
Just technologically. I mean, it's. I remember when Carol and I got into television. She started 2 years after I did in Tucson, Arizona. We were shooting with film, and poor Carol was 118 pounds soaking wet, and she's carrying around a 75-pound camera on her shoulder. Wow. So that's part of the difference, And just before we left Tucson, the station got, and primarily it's because of her, got a smaller camera that she could shoot news stories with. Again, it was film. And by the time we got to San Diego, it was videotape. 3/4-inch videotape, but videotape. So, you're still lugging a couple large pieces of equipment around, but it was a lot better. The quality was better. Of course, now it's all on a computer chip, and you can put it in almost anything. And actually, your camera probably is a 4K camera. So it's like nowadays, your camera is almost as good as the old television cameras back in the 60s and 70s. Wow. There's no doubt about it.
What should students take in high school if they want to prepare themselves for broadcast? Obviously, the speech classes.
Wow. There's several rules of thumb. I was an English major. You'd never know it by the way I speak. But anyway, Carol had an interesting route to television. She was a language major at Indiana U. Spoke 5 languages. And so she has managed to utilize every one of her languages in television. You'll hear a lot of news directors say, we don't want J students, journalism.
Okay.
We can teach them how to write. Okay. We would like students that maybe want a law background.
Wow.
Economy. Because the one thing, and of course I learned this the hard way coming, when I was helping out at Fox in the news department, but pretty much with the Dodgers, if I got thrown into an economic story, I was lost. Luckily, we had a guy on staff at Fox 11 in LA who is trained economist, and he explained a lot of stuff before I actually went out and covered the story. Sounded almost reasonably intelligent, which was a shock. But that's the kind of thing that the versatility of it all, I think that's the key. And for a youngster, and I see it in the St. Lucie County schools a lot, Treasure Coast, Port St. Lucie, and at Centennial, is that the teachers who are really good teachers will teach those kids to do a little of everything. That's the key. Because when you're in a small market, you're not only going to be, quote unquote, the anchor, but you're going to be the camera person. You're going to be the audio person. You're going to be a technical director. Right. You may be the director. Of course, in case now, it's almost one person. Yeah. But that's a thing that I think that's changed quite a bit, and that I really don't like, is the automation that has occurred behind the cameras, even in markets the size of a Palm Beach, that where you may have had 6 or 8 or 10 people working on a newscast, you now may only have 2. Not counting the talent types, because they're going to be the writers anyway. So that's what's different now. So these kids have got to learn that the competition for these jobs is going to be a lot fiercer than it was when I was coming up.
Now, next year, obviously I'm going to do some games.
Sure, you bet.
Maybe we can get some students from the high schools to work with us, give them an inning.
That would be awesome.
A few plays.
You bet.
Break them in. Now, the question I got to ask you, because this is for me personally, I always did the color. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between play-by-play and color? It's going to be, you got me doing some play-by-play next year.
You could put their microphones on.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
No, it's, I think the good thing for the kids is that everybody thinks play-by-play and color are real easy to do until you get thrown into that.
Yes.
And it's, if you're in color, if you're an analyst person, the first thing you've got to learn, be succinct. I used to go round and round and round with my old Dodger Central buddy, Rick Monday, who had a tendency until he started working with Charlie, our old ESPN compatriot, Charlie Steiner, be brief. An analyst cannot talk too long because a play-by-play guy has got to be ready for the next play.
You can't miss the next pitch, the next play.
Exactly.
You got to know when to jump in and when to not jump in.
Exactly.
On that.
Exactly.
Right.
But there again, that comes with experience. And I think the kids today, should learn how to shoot sporting events. In a lot of cases, edit sporting events. Because a lot of, say, the cable networks, if you will, if you can boil these games down to an hour, and that would be phenomenal. The reason I say that, if you watch the Big Ten Network, and actually Pac-10 went to it last year, game 60 minutes. That's it. Piece of cake. Because all of a sudden now you realize you're watching an entire football game, college game that takes 3.5 hours in 60 minutes. So that is where your editor comes into play and gets you all the key action and boil it all down to 60 minutes. It's very interesting.
So as my head is spinning right now and I'm thinking ahead, maybe we could sit down with Mrs. Willette, who's the county athletic director from Westwood, and say, every game that we do, we'd like to have a young man or a young lady work with us, and we're actually going to give them time on the microphone. And again, like you said, play-by-play is just a stream. Unless you come in when you're supposed to come in. I always think that the radio is so much harder than TV because your radio is not just people's ears, but their eyes also. Because, again, if you're creative on the radio, you could really make something that's a little bit dull look very good, right?
Well, Chick Hearn, the late voice of the Lakers, used to call it bird's eye view. Yeah. And it's true. You are on the radio, you're creating theater of the mind. Right. And I think that's very important. And in sports, the big key that I will tell everybody, and I'm guilty of this too, having been thrown into doing play-by-play at IRSC over the last couple of years, don't get too excited. Know your moment. All you have to do is watch Vin Scully's call of Kurt Gibson's home run.
Yes.
The key is not what you say, but when you shut up.
And let the action take over.
Let the crowd take it. And that is the art form that you develop over the years, obviously. Right. But, I mean, as a youngster coming up, what I would strongly suggest, if anybody wants to get in, especially sports broadcasting, YouTube is great. I mean, they've got all sorts of stuff. And I've been posting some of it on our WPSL site from the Dodgers. And some of Vin Scully's great calls. Start listening to some of these guys who were around as much as I thought he was crazy to deal with. Harry Carey was a fun guy who created this imaginary picture when he was with the Cubs. And you start listening to some of those games, and it's phenomenal. It is just phenomenal what they managed to do.
Again, you have to have that creativity in you, and the only reason you're going to get that is through experience. But again, with being all these advances in the social media world, there's a great opportunities for our young men and our young women to go out there.
It's so much easier for them.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I was 18 years old, and I was interning for Dick Enberg at Channel 5 in L.A. And I was kidding. We were down at the Olympic Auditorium, and he was about ready to start his newscast. And I saw him working on these charts, and I'm going, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I've got a football game this week in Kansas City, so I'm just working on my charts." I said, "My God, how long do you do that?" And he said, "Greg, for every hour you're on the air, prepare for a minimum of 2, but most likely 3 hours." So if you're on the air for 3 hours, you prepare for 9. And that has stuck with me for my entire life. And that's these kids have got to do. And for them now, because everything's on the web.
Correct.
We couldn't do that.
Correct.
We actually had to go out and talk to coaches, go to practices, stuff like that. We don't have to do that anymore. You can get it all off the web. Although it doesn't hurt
To make
to
it fun.
have the personal
Right.
touch with coaches, athletic directors, and assistant coaches. You're going to get more out of an assistant coach than you ever will out of a head coach.
See, I'm glad you brought that up. When I was coaching back when I was down in Miami, we get to the state
That was
tournament.
turn of the century,
That was
right?
turn of the century.
Yeah, 19 something.
You're rubbing this in a little more.
Certainly I am.
I know you are. Okay, remember, I'm working for you next year. Okay. We would call coaches
Sure.
and ask scouting reports. Now, you just look up the stats. You look
Sure.
up who they play. But you always still call the coach, and like you said, you always still coach the assistant coach, because how do you know those stats are accurate that much? But, geez, I remember we used to pull into the state championship, and the first thing the kids used to do is we take one quarter, go to where the newspapers were. I know nobody's looking. Take out 30 newspapers. Everybody's reading. How's this home team doing?
Sure.
Because we had no way of doing it. Now you go to Maxi Preps or some of the USA Today publications, and you can get every stat on every player. Okay, and it's so different. Times have changed so much in that area.
Yeah, but still, there's got to be that personal
Yes,
touch.
it does. Yes.
And, I know, of course, the late Tom Teeter used to, down at WSTU.
Yeah.
Tommy was a legend down in Martin County.
Yes.
And he was like this with the coaches.
Yeah.
Mike, not so much. That's not his style. So it's everybody's got their own style, but it doesn't hurt going out to practice, even if it's just one, and interacting. with
Introduce
these guys.
yourself.
Exactly.
Introduce
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, because then you're not a stranger to them. Because if you have to walk up to them for a post-game interview, they're not going to freak out. Who are you? You
And
know?
then that's got to be
Sure.
tough. Post-game interviews got to be tough with the losing
It's
teams.
horrible.
Huh?
And I used to get that a lot. I mean, when I was doing the bowl games at ESPN, I was always the field guy. So, very difficult. I remember Bo Schembechler Bo didn't like me anyway, but I always talked to him after a loss. So it was we were in San Diego. BYU had just won the national championship.
Oh boy.
Schembechler was just livid, but I had to talk to him, and and it was really funny. It was very much a challenge, but it was okay. I mean, in the end, it turned out okay.
Right. Well, time goes by quick when I talk to you.
Wow.
We're getting near the end of our show, and I got to thank you for all you do for high school in this area. I want to thank you. I know you had a tough day yesterday and that sad occurrence, and I heard your station did yeoman work.
Yes.
And I know Mike did a great
Again,
job.
Mike Thomas, yeah.
Mike Thomas did a great job and everything. And hopefully when we start up with the sports in the fall, we'll sit down with the district office, and maybe all the games that we do, we're going to do some games with Craig again, simulcast.
Sure.
We can get an intern from each school and show them the business.
That would be awesome. August 26th is our first football game, and should be a lot of fun.
Okay. But again, I want to thank you and thank everybody out there to another edition of Hey Coach.